The previous slides used the concept of single file components. These are components we place into a dedicated file to keep things more organized. To do this, we need a much more sophisticated setup, which we'll look at in the next section. This component placed into its own file is probably the most commonly used type of component. But first, we're going to look at some different ways of writing these, beginning with the global component. The first thing I'm going to do inside of our script.js is to store our Vue instance inside of a constant called app. Now we have this application stored into this app reference. We're then going to use this to call mount. So app.mount will then remount this to the body section. If we refresh the browser, we don't see any changes inside of here. But now having this separate reference to our application means we can now call a method called component. This app.component takes in two arguments. The first one is the name we want to give to this component, and mine is going to be app-header. When using the CDN link, just like we are, the name of this component should be all lowercase, more than one word, and separated by dashes. This is because we will insert this back into our HTML just like a regular element, so we don't want any naming clashes. This naming convention also means that we don't clash with any regular HTML elements, such as the header, the nav, or also a regular h3, for example. After this, the second argument, separated by a comma, is going to be an object. This object is kind of like a mini application. It can have its own data, its own methods, and basically anything which we have just above in our regular Vue instance. Alongside this, it also has a template, which is a string, and this is going to be the HTML which we want to output inside of the browser. This can be any HTML code, such as a level 1 heading. And let's just add some text inside of here for now. Save this, and we can now use this app-header inside of our index page, just like a regular HTML element. Let's comment out the header section, and then we can replace it with our app-header element. Save. And this is now output in place of our regular header. Now we know this is working, we can now grab our regular header section. We can uncomment this out and cut this out of place. And then we can now place this as our template string. Instantly we see from all of these red underlines that the text editor is highlighting a problem. This is because we are using quotations to surround all of this HTML. This worked perfectly fine when we used a single line of HTML, just like our level 1 heading. However, when we have multiple lines of HTML just like this, we need to replace these quotations with the backticks. When we use the Vue CLI to set up our project soon, this will give us a cleaner way of writing our HTML code inside of these components. But for now, over to the browser, and this now shows up inside of the header section, but we are missing the variables. We no longer see things such as our dynamic sections, which is the name, and also the links just below. For this to work, we can also set up the data section, which it needs for this template. So scroll up to the data section, which we've been using. We need the name and also the link, so I'm going to cut these out of the Vue instance and then place these back into our component. So we set up the data just like we did above. This is a function which is going to return an object, and we can paste in our name and our links. Don't forget to separate the data section and the template with a comma. And this now places our data back into the browser, but this time from a component.